The words echoed through the office floor like a hammer striking steel. Every keyboard stopped, every head slowly turned. Earn it or get fired. For a moment, the entire room froze as if the air itself had been pulled out. Dozens of employees stood silently, watching the scene unfold in the middle of the open office. And right there, under the bright fluorescent lights, stood Daniel Carter, a tired, worn-out single father who had already been fighting battles most people in that room would never understand. Across from him stood the company's powerful CEO, a woman known for her ruthless standards and cold leadership. She had built the billion-dollar company from nothing, and everyone in the building knew one thing about her: she did not tolerate weakness. But what nobody knew was that this moment would change everything. Before we continue, take a quick second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us of what truly matters, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. And don't forget to comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Daniel Carter had never planned for his life to turn out like this. 5 years earlier, he had been living a simple but happy life with his wife, Emily, and their newborn daughter, Lily. They lived in a tiny apartment with cracked windows and thin walls, but laughter always filled the rooms. Daniel worked long shifts, Emily sang to Lily in the evenings, and life felt whole. But tragedy has a way of arriving without warning. One rainy night, Emily never made it home from work. The phone call Daniel received from the hospital that evening shattered his world in a way that words could never fully describe. In a single moment, the love of his life was gone, leaving him alone with a 2-year-old daughter and a future that suddenly looked impossible. From that day forward, Daniel's life became a constant race against exhaustion. He woke up before sunrise to prepare Lily for daycare, rushed across town to work, then spent his nights cooking, cleaning, and comforting a little girl who often cried for the mother she barely remembered. Sleep became a luxury. Peace became rare. Still, Daniel refused to give up. Every day he showed up to work at the logistics company where he had been employed for years. It wasn't glamorous work, endless spreadsheets, shipping reports, and warehouse coordination, but it paid the bills and kept Lily fed. And that was enough for him. But the company had recently changed leadership. The new CEO, Victoria Hale, had taken over 6 months earlier. She was young, brilliant, and incredibly ambitious. Under her leadership, the company began cutting costs, restructuring departments, and pushing employees harder than ever before. Performance targets doubled, deadlines became brutal, and patience disappeared. To Victoria Hale, business was war, and only the strongest deserved to stay. Daniel tried his best to keep up, but life outside the office made everything harder. Some nights Lily had fevers that kept him awake until dawn. Some mornings the daycare called, forcing him to leave work early. His reports occasionally arrived late, his numbers slipped, and whispers about his declining performance started spreading. Then came the meeting. It happened during a quarterly performance review in the open office space, a place where everyone could see everything. Victoria stood tall in her tailored suit, holding Daniel's performance report like evidence in a courtroom. Around them, employees pretended to work while secretly listening to every word. Daniel stood quietly, shoulders heavy with fatigue. Victoria didn't yell. She didn't need to. Her calm voice carried authority that cut deeper than anger. She simply said he had 30 days to prove he deserved his position, earn it, or get fired. The words landed like a public sentence. Daniel felt the weight of dozens of eyes staring at him. Some people looked sympathetic. Others looked relieved it wasn't them. He nodded silently and returned to his desk. That night, Daniel sat at the small kitchen table in his apartment, while Lily colored pictures beside him. His laptop screen glowed with spreadsheets he needed to finish before morning. His head throbbed from exhaustion, but when Lily looked up at him with a smile and handed him a drawing of the two of them holding hands, something inside him shifted. He remembered why he couldn't fail. The next 30 days became the hardest stretch of Daniel's life. He woke up earlier than ever before, often working while Lily slept beside him on the couch. After putting her to bed, he stayed up until midnight reviewing reports, studying systems he had never fully learned, and finding ways to improve efficiency in the warehouse schedules. Slowly, something remarkable began happening. Daniel discovered patterns in the company's logistics network that nobody had noticed before. Routes that wasted fuel, delivery overlaps that cost thousands of dollars every month. He started fixing them. At first, nobody noticed. Then the numbers began to change, shipping delays dropped, costs decreased, warehouse productivity increased. Managers started quietly asking who had made the adjustments, and the answer kept coming back the same: Daniel Carter. But the real turning point happened on a late Friday evening. Most employees had already gone home when Victoria Hale walked past the operations floor and noticed a desk lamp still glowing. Curious, she approached and found Daniel sitting there, eyes red from fatigue, reviewing a massive logistics map spread across his screen. What she saw stunned her. Daniel had redesigned an entire regional delivery system, something the company had struggled with for years. The new plan could potentially save the company millions annually. Victoria watched silently for several seconds before speaking. Daniel startled when he realized she was standing behind him. For the first time since she had become CEO, Victoria truly saw the man in front of her, not just an employee with slipping numbers, but a father running on almost no sleep, doing everything he could to survive. Something in that moment softened inside her. The next Monday morning, the entire company gathered for a leadership announcement. Whispers filled the room as employees wondered what changes were coming next. Victoria stepped forward to the podium. She began speaking about performance, resilience, and the true meaning of effort. Then she did something nobody expected. She called Daniel Carter to the front. The same man who had been publicly challenged weeks earlier now stood nervously before hundreds of coworkers. Victoria explained how Daniel's work had uncovered massive inefficiencies and created one of the most valuable logistics improvements the company had seen in years. Then she announced that Daniel would be promoted to lead the company's new logistics optimization team. The room erupted in applause. But what moved Daniel most wasn't the promotion. It was what Victoria said next. She admitted that leadership sometimes forgets the human stories behind employee performance. She acknowledged that determination, sacrifice, and heart cannot always be measured by spreadsheets. And she promised the company would begin offering better support for working parents. Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. That evening, he picked Lily up from daycare and carried her home under the golden sunset. She wrapped her tiny arms around his neck, laughing the way children do when the world still feels safe. Daniel realized something powerful in that moment. Sometimes life pushes people to their breaking point not to destroy them, but to reveal just how strong they really are. But before we reach the end of this story, we have a small request for you. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment right now to like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. Your support helps spread stories that remind people the world can still be compassionate. And here's a special request before we finish. Comment the word hope below if you believe hard work and kindness can still change lives. Because sometimes the people who seem to be struggling the most are the ones carrying the greatest strength inside them. Daniel Carter walked into that office 30 days earlier as a man on the edge of losing everything. He walked out as proof that determination, love for family, and quiet perseverance can transform even the harshest challenges into life-changing victories. And somewhere in that same office building, a CEO who once believed only in results had learned something just as important. Sometimes the greatest success isn't profit. Sometimes it's simply choosing to see the human being behind the struggle.